Hello YouTube, just another quick update video on the progress of the 848 build. Again, apologies for the background noise. At this time of year in Manitoba, it's uninsulated or partially insulated garages at certain times of the day can actually be colder inside than they are outside. Hence the garage door open. Ambient light helps. But yeah, it's a Saturday morning and there's people driving around. So I got the Woodcraft frame sliders installed. These are some special ones that have the pucks shaved down, and these standoffs here are a bit shorter just so they tuck inside the bodywork. So that's good to have. It also gives me a bit of a sense of how wide the bodywork sits outward of the bike. Give me a sense of how much room I have to put the new regulator rectifier as well, which I'll talk about in a bit. So yeah, these went on nice and easy. I had everything propped up here, thinking that as soon as I slid out the engine bolt, you know, things would tip down a bit, which they do in an air-cooled bike, where the swing arms pivot off the case. But because there's mounting bolts here and here, the bolt slid out like butter. I put the new one in with a bit of silicone grease and easy peasy. So that was kind of a nice install, and it's Woodcraft, so you know that it's quality. And I think I've said before, I have in years past, when I was really serious about my racing, got, I guess, sponsorship or club racer sponsorship from Woodcraft, which meant a discount on parts. Certainly no salary involved, but yeah, this stuff I bought used, and again, it's great quality stuff. So that went in nice and easy. As I promised, from the land of 5mm Allen key and assemble your own furniture, comes the Olin's rear shock. So yeah, there's always a risk of buying a used shock. Looks good on the pictures, and the first time you compress it, you get oil leaking around the shaft, but this is in amazingly good shape. I'm sure the oil is original to when it was built, but I triple checked the spring rate, comparing it with Olin's, converting inch pounds to Newton something or others, whatever different spring companies use to measure their spring rate. Anyway, this is a lighter spring than came on the OEM shock, so that's what's recommended. The only thing is that it is a bit tricky through this porthole here to adjust. I think that's rebound damping on the bottom, compression up here. Anyway, I'll have to figure out some sort of solution, because I don't want to be taking off the rear set every time I want to, you know, click the damping by one click. But yeah, that was a really good steal for the price that I paid. It was pretty amazing. I also noticed in the manual that I think there's multiple versions, I guess, or multiple. Look at that. Silicone grease on the side of the swing arm. I'll clean that off. Multiple versions or styles of swing arms. So in the manual, getting at this rear shock, you approached it from this side, whereas on my swing arm, it's through this tiny porthole. I'm not sure how well you can see it there. To get to the shock bolt, and it was a bit of a bugger to get out, so I ended up having to, you know, coat the Allen bolt with silicone grease, set it in the bolt, let it sit, and then draw it out after the fact. So anyway, not the easiest thing, but I think this is a first model year, so I think over time, Ducati being Ducati, they made some slight changes to designs to ease assembly and maintenance. Speaking of which, taking this shock out is a real pain in the arse. You have to loosen off everything. You have to, you know, loosen off the rod here. You got to take it off this pivot here. You got to obviously loosen this off here, but in the right order, because you can't get a Allen bolt into you know, oriented into that shock because the frame is in the way. Yada yada yada. However, me being me, you can see it allowed me the opportunity to take this rocker arm off, clean the heck out of it, re-grease it, that sort of thing. So in the long run, if I come across an opportunity where I really want to spend some more money A flat rate link is one of the recommended upgrades or modifications of these bikes to make them handle better, and I think improve tire life. So won't be doing that just yet, unless one comes up for sale for a fraction of the price of new, and I just have to buy it. So yeah, that's that. So again, incredible score considering how much I paid for it. $350 US, free shipping from Japan, which is amazing, and $70 Canadian import duties to FedEx, and it got here in like 5 days. So can't complain about that. It isn't it was the OEM Öhlins fitment to a 1098S. So is it a $1,500 shock? No, but it's a $800 or $900 shock, and so I think I did really well on that. One other thing that I talked about in the last video is I noticed, and I need to inspect this, the OEM Ducati speed bleeders are notorious for eventually just giving up the ghost and weeping brake fluid, and sure enough mine did. So what I did very, I don't know, I wouldn't call it carefully, as quick as I could, is I replaced the double banjo speed bleeder with a regular double banjo that I can also safety wire here, which is always a good habit. And let's see, no brake fluid weeping. So obviously that works, which is a win. Ideally, and I think even some race classes in the UK, like the serious club racers, specify that this crossover hose is like not legal, or it won't pass tech. They prefer for race bikes, if you're running, or they mandate for race bikes, if you're running dual front calipers, there's a direct line to each caliper. But in my case, that would mean buying new brake lines, getting some new banjo bolts, yada yada. These are braided lines from the factory, so you don't get much better than that. So we're going to leave that as is. And my little arts and craft project, for you Canadians out there talking about arts and craft, I did watch the Netflix documentary on Mr. Dress Up. So you of a certain age will remember Mr. Dress Up and the Tickle Trunk and the little kids program. So I did some tracing and I did some cutting, and what am I doing here? This bracket's gonna fit here and go around the fan because I don't want to take off the fan, all in order to mount my Motion Pro 275cc coolant recovery tank right about here. So it'll fit inside the bodywork and get out of the way. It's a race spec one. It's approved by all of the sanctioning bodies. It beats a Red Bull or Coors Light can that some people have zip tied in there. And as I said, saves all this area in here, which is where the original coolant tank went. So lastly, one of the things I plan to do today is I did decide to go and buy myself a upgraded regulator rectifier, and of course the stock ones sat underneath here, which it's a means to an end, but not the smartest place to put something that, you know, tends to heat up right beside the exhaust. So I put this on one of my other Ducati project. If you've seen those videos from Roadster Cycle, Shindingen 847. Unfortunately, in order to find those used on eBay, they only were ever fitted to one motorcycle, a 2020 and newer Suzuki V-Strom 1050. So the idea of, oh, I'm gonna, you know, look it up and find a cheap one on eBay. There was one listed. It had been slightly damaged, but the seller claimed still work and was $200. So for more money, I got a brand new one that's been bench tested at Roadster Cycle, along with the proper cabling to move the rectifier here onto the other side, which is a fairly common mod. Get it out into the airstream and get it away from the exhaust, which is hot, and you don't want rectifiers to get hot. So with that, it does allow you to get a lithium-ion battery, which is what I found. And rather than order online, I went to my local Prairie Battery store. I'm gonna give them a little plug in Brandon, Manitoba, Canada, and got this Noco lithium battery for cheaper than one I could find online with less cold cranking amps. So apparently this little thing has 500 cold cranking amps, which is double Yeah, 500 amps, which is double what any of these things would have, and it weighs maybe 1.5 pounds, whereas this brick probably weighs 7 or 8 pounds. If I had a decent scale, I'd weigh the two to compare, but everyone has known for quite some time that lithium-ion batteries, while they are a bit finicky to maintain and you need a special charger, the advantages are amazing, and these are the cutting edge things that will maybe someday have us all riding and driving in electric vehicles, and you know, making the place greener. Until such time, we will continue, or I will continue, to burn fossil fuels in the pursuit of fun and happiness. So I'm not going to wire this up just yet. I just need to do some test fitting to see how this fits in here. I do know that I will be having additional wiring or cabling coming into here, simply because I did get a starter upgrade kit. And I guess what I'm doing, if you don't already know, is that there are a few issues that I guess Ducatis are known to have in regards to electrical. Luckily, some innovators out there have fixed most, if not all, the problems, not for free, of course. But you know, my first couple of years of racing, I went out to the track, and it was sort of a real crapshoot whether the bike I was riding at the state it was in would actually run or work on the weekend or whatever. And it was a horrible 2-stroke RD 350. So that was my first mistake. But I think what that's done, it scarred me for life to make sure, and you know, the guys in the track kind of tease me about this, is that your bikes are always so clean, but well maintained, because there's nothing worse than loading up the trailer, driving out to the track, and then your bike doesn't run. So I guess one could argue, from what I've spent on the electrical upgrades or whatever, I could get, you know, billet brakes or you know, offset triple clamps or whatever. Yes, but offset triple clamps don't do you any good if your electrical system isn't running. So again, that's my lecture. Take it for what it is. But what I'm going to do today is test fit the battery, make sure I have the right spacers in there. I do have a proper Ducati cover coming in the mail. And the other thing is, you can kind of tell, or at least I can tell, that this is a 14-tooth Ducati Sprocket. The leading edge of the teeth are worn, so I'm not going to use this. I'm going to test fit it to see if it'll work with the gearing ratio 14:37 without totally sawing through the swing arm. And if that's the case, then I will buy a new Vortex 14-tooth front sprocket and have it in my arsenal, just so that I think 14:37 is almost equivalent to the stock 15:39 that this bike came on. So yeah, that's what I'll do today, and if anything interesting happens, I'll post some updates. I've posted this on Facebook before, but those of you who know what this is know how amazingly victorious you feel when you're able to extract something like this. So is this a M6 bolt with lots of Loctite buried underneath the engine, subjected to dirt, grime, water, rust? No, the person decided to use this much torque to bolt on the clutch slave cylinder. I had to remove it to test fit the 14-tooth sprocket. So granted, this bolt is probably made of something slightly stiffer than chocolate, but still, do not tighten things this tight, people. It doesn't require that much torque. I don't know if that's blue Loctite or just some discoloration there, but that's redonkulous, and I'm lucky I got it out. So usual, two came out fine. The third one started to slip, so then I put in a more of an impact style Allen socket. That slipped. So luckily the easy out came out, but this is going into an aluminum case, people. NTFT, not too tight, is the rule of the day. Anyway, win, success, it came out. I've found some better Allen bolts to replace it with, and That's one in the win column for Jimmy. Anyway, so a bit of an update after I'm done this work for the day. I did put on the 14 tooth front sprocket, and I guess it does ride a bit on the chain guide here, but not a whole lot. So I think that'll work. It seems to run okay. So that is now 1437, which is equivalent or as near as, damn it, to the stock 1539. And again, what it does is I've got enough room in the chain adjustment to be able to put a 38 on the back, which would again shorten up the gearing even more than stock. So yeah, it took some finessing, but I don't know if I could fit a 1540, and I'm not sure I'd want to bother anyway. But yeah, that's a win that I was able to get that to work. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll check back soon. Body work should be coming in next week.